Hello, class. Welcome to Flourish Nursing Academy. This is Tutor Godwin. We will be handling the anatomy and physiology of the endocrine system. The endocrine system regulates body activities by releasing hormones, chemical messengers, into the bloodstream where they are carried throughout the entire body. Function of hormones. Regulate the chemical composition and volume of the internal environment. Extracellular fluid. Help regulate metabolism and energy balance. Help regulate contraction of smooth and cardiac muscle fibers and secretion by glands. Help maintain homeostasis despite disruptions such as infection, trauma, emotional stress, dehydration, starvation, hemorrhage, and temperature extremes. Regulate certain activities of the immune system. Play a role in the smooth sequential integration of growth and development. Contribute to the basic processes of reproduction, including gamete production, fertilization, nourishment of the embryo and fetus, delivery, and nourishment of the newborn. The endocrine system is composed of the body's endocrine glands. These include the pituitary, thyroid, parathyroid, adrenal, pineal glands, pancreatic islets. There are also many organs that have cells which secrete hormones but are not exclusively endocrine organs. These include the hypothalamus, thymus, pancreas, ovaries, testes, kidneys, stomach, liver, small intestine, skin, heart, and placenta. Hormones. Hormones are chemical substances that are carried by a cell tissue and initiate specific action. There are approximately 50 different hormones produced in the human body. The specific cells which are affected by a hormone are called target cells. Hormones influence their target cells by binding to proteins or glycoproteins in the cell membrane called receptors. The pituitary gland and hypothalamus. The pituitary gland, or hypophysis, is attached to the hypothalamus at the base of the brain. The hypothalamus is the major integrating link between the nervous and endocrine systems. Although the pituitary gland is sometimes called the master endocrine gland. Together, the hypothalamus and pituitary gland regulate virtually all aspects of growth, development, metabolism, and homeostasis. The pituitary gland can be divided into the posterior pituitary and anterior pituitary. It is the size of a pea, weighs about 500 milliliters, and consists of two main parts that originate from different types of cells. The anterior pituitary, adenohypophysis, is an upgrowth of glandular epithelium from the pharynx, and the posterior pituitary, neurohypophysis, is a downgrowth of nervous tissue from the brain. There is a network of nerve fibers between the hypothalamus and the posterior pituitary. Arterial blood. This is from branches of the internal carotid artery. The anterior lobe is supplied indirectly by blood that has already passed through a capillary bed in the hypothalamus, but the posterior lobe is supplied directly. The influence of the hypothalamus on the pituitary gland. The hypothalamus controls the release of hormones from both the anterior and posterior pituitary, but in different ways. Anterior pituitary, Schule growth hormones, GH, thyroid-stimulating hormones, TSH, adrenocorticotropic hormone, ACTH, prolactin, PRL, luteinizing hormones, LH, follicle-stimulating hormones, FSH, regulates certain aspects of metabolism. Thyroid-stimulating hormone, TSH, which controls secretions and other activities of the thyroid gland. Follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH, and luteinizing hormone, LH. Together, FSH and LH stimulate the secretion of estrogen and progesterone, and the maturation of oocytes in the ovaries and the secretion of testosterone and sperm production in the testes. Posterior pituitary Chaus vasopressin, or ADH, oxytocin. The posterior pituitary works as a unit with the hypothalamus. Although the posterior pituitary does not synthesize its own hormones, it does store and release oxytocin, OT, and antidiuretic hormone, ADH, produced in the hypothalamus. Oxytocin controls uterine contractions during delivery and milk ejection during breastfeeding. ADH causes retention of body water, controlling the body's water. Balancing mechanism, prolactin, PRL, which initiates milk production in the mammary glands. Growth hormones. This is the most abundant hormone synthesized by the anterior pituitary. It stimulates growth and division of most body cells, but especially those in the bones and skeletal muscles. Body growth in response to the secretion of GH is evident during childhood and adolescence, and thereafter, secretion of GH maintains the mass of bones and skeletal muscles. It also regulates aspects of metabolism in many organs, e.g., liver, intestines, and pancreas. Its release is stimulated by growth hormone-releasing hormone, GHRH, and suppressed by growth hormone release, inhibiting hormone, GHRIH, also known as somatostatin, both of which are secreted by the hypothalamus. Secretion of GH is greater at night during sleep and is also stimulated by hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, exercise, and anxiety. Secretion peaks in adolescence and then declines with age. Thyroid-stimulating hormones, TSH. The release of this hormone is stimulated by thyrotrophin-releasing hormone, TRH, from the hypothalamus. TRH is stimulated by exercise, stress, malnutrition, low plasma glucose levels, and sleep. It stimulates growth and activity of the thyroid gland, which secretes the hormones thyroxin, T4, and triiodothyronine, T3. Release is lowest in the early evening and highest during the night. Adrenocorticotrophic hormone, ACTH. Corticotrophin-releasing hormone, CRH, from the hypothalamus, promotes the synthesis and release of ACTH by the anterior pituitary. This increases the concentration of cholesterol and steroids within the adrenal cortex. ACTH levels are highest at about 8 a.m. and fall to their lowest about midnight. Prolactin. This hormone is secreted during pregnancy to prepare the breasts for lactation, milk production after childbirth. The blood level of prolactin is stimulated by prolactin-releasing hormone, PRH, released from the hypothalamus, and it is lowered by prolactin-inhibiting hormone, PIH, dopamine, and by an increased blood level of prolactin. Gonadotrophins. Just before puberty, two gonadotrophins, sex hormones, are secreted in gradually increasing amounts by the anterior pituitary in response to luteinizing hormone-releasing hormone, LHRH, also known as gonadotrophin-releasing hormone, GnRH. Rising levels of these hormones at puberty promote mature functioning of the reproductive organs. In males and females, the hormones responsible are follicle-stimulating hormone, FSH. In females, it regulates the development of sex organs in females and the development of immature ovarian follicles from the ovary. secretes estrogen and progesterone during the menstrual cycle. In males, initiation of spermatogenesis. Luteinizing hormones. In females, responsible for ovulation, maintaining the corpus luteum and secretion of progesterone. In males, it is responsible for testosterone secretion. The thyroid gland. The thyroid gland is situated in the neck, in front of the larynx and trachea, at the level of the 5th, 6th, and 7th cervical and 1st thoracic vertebrae. It is a highly vascular gland that weighs about 25 grams and is surrounded by a fibrous capsule. It resembles a butterfly in shape, consisting of 2 lobes, one on either side of the thyroid cartilage and upper cartilaginous rings of the trachea. The lobes are joined by a narrow isthmus lying in front of the trachea. The lobes are roughly cone-shaped, about 5 centimeters long and 3 centimeters wide. The arterial blood supply to the gland is through the superior and inferior thyroid arteries. The superior thyroid artery is a branch of the external carotid artery, and the inferior thyroid artery is a branch of the subclavian artery. The venous return is by the thyroid veins, which drain into the internal jugular veins. The venous return is by the thyroid veins, which drain into the internal jugular veins. The gland is composed of largely spherical follicles formed from cuboidal epithelium. These secrete and store colloid, a thick, sticky protein. Material. Between the follicles are other cells found singly or in small groups. Parafollicular cells, also called C cells, produces T4, thyroxine, and T3, triiodothyronine, from iodide and thyroglobulin. T4, T3 conversion peripherally. T3 is the active hormone. It increases basal metabolic rate, BMR, heat production, heart rate, and metabolism of carbohydrates, lipids, and proteins. Parafollicular cells, also called C cells, produce calcitonin, whose role is lowering blood calcium. By acting on bone cells, promoting their storage of calcium. Kidney tubules, inhibiting the reabsorption of calcium. Release of calcitonin is stimulated by increased blood calcium levels.